Hello everybody, and welcome to Yoshi 1 Kenobi's Cathar Crusade Tokens MTG Arena Historic deck. So in this deck, we try to make a deck centered around Cathar's Crusade. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, which is a very powerful effect. Now, this is a do-nothing enchantment, so we have to make it worth our while. So we want to play this, and then next turn summon a whole bunch of creatures, pump our board by tons, and hopefully win the game on the spot, or create a board where our opponent has no real outs. So we're going to be using tokens, and because if we play tokens, we can hopefully put more than one creature on the battlefield at the same time, which means that each of these creatures is going to get +X/+X as +1/+1 counters for the number of creatures we've put in play. If we're going to be playing tokens, might as well play Divine Visitation. Instead of creating 1/1s, we'll be putting 4/4 Flying Vigilance Angels into play. So let's go over the list. For Cathar's Crusade, 2 Divine Visitation, and Tokenators. So we're playing March of the Multitudes, because March of the Multitude and Cathar's Crusade is ridiculous. You get to pay X, where X is the number of XX soldier creatures with lifelinks that you'll put on the battlefield. X equals 5, you get 5/5/5s. And since we're playing tokens, X will go large very, very fast. We're playing 2 Lovestruck Beast, generates a token, generates a 5/5. 2 creatures, good blockers, good stuff. History of Benalia, one of the strongest token makers in Historic. Then we're playing Raise the Alarm and Saproling Migration, which allows us to create at least 2 tokens. Instant speed on Raise the Alarm is really good. Song of Freyalise. Well, this allows us to ramp to our Cathar's Crusade or Divine Visitation. And the same thing with Llanowar Elves. So they're cheap things that allows us to ramp, because we want to get Cathar's Crusade out much faster than on turn 5, ideally turn 3 or 4. And then we play Legion's Landing, because it makes a token. It ramps. It allows you to create tokens at instant speed once it's in land form. So overall, lots of synergies within the deck. A very linear game plan where you're trying to get one of these big enchantments on the battlefield and then blow your opponent to smithereens using your huge creatures that are now your tokens. In terms of lands, a pair of Castle Arvindales, simply because it makes tokens. It's awesome. We play 1 Phyrexian Tower because we're playing so many tokens that sacrificing 1 to ramp up that extra mana is often worth it. And the black mana is essentially colorless for this deck, but it gives us an additional way to ramp into our big enchantments. So that is Cathar's Crusade tokens for MTG Arena Historic. Now let's see it in action in some games. We are playing Cathar's Crusade tokens on MTG Arena Historic against Moonis. And we have a Cathar's Crusade and token producer, so we will keep this. All we need is some level of mana acceleration. Ah, that's just greedy. I'll put it to the bottom. Opponent is playing red deck wins. We have tokens for days. Saprolings enter the battlefield. Opponent plays a Steamkin. Song of Freyalise, exactly what we needed. So cast the song. And we'll pass the turn. Which means next turn, unless our opponent removes something, we are going to rule Cathar's Crusade into Raise the Alarm. I don't like this fanatical Firebrand. Now we need to draw land. I'll let these attacks go through. Legion's Landing. Now we can kick her to Saproling Migration. Actually, this is better. We can Cathar's Crusade into Legion's Landing, which will make all our tokens 2/2s. Boom! There you got it. Our opponent has 2 live Steamkins, but let's not worry about that for now. Let's worry about giving +4/+4 to all our creatures next turn. Assuming we live through next turn. Rampaging Ferocidon is a huge pain. Opponent's attacking for 7. I want to put 4 creatures on the battlefield next turn. Yeah, it can go true. Anax, hardened by the forge. Opponent takes 1. We will draw for the turn. Which Song of Freyalise trigger on the stack, we are going to raise the alarm. Cathar's Crusade triggers twice. Rampaging Ferocidon triggers twice. We take a beating. Everything now has a +1/+1 counter and indestructible and vigilance. So we'll summon 2 more Saproling tokens, which will give everything +2/+2. And we'll take 2 points of damage off of the Rampaging Ferocidon. And then we'll attack with our indestructible 7/7 trample creatures. And now we have a board state. I really want to get rid of that Ferocidon. I'm really not sure why our opponent decided to double block. I guess it doesn't matter because we have trample. And that's enough damage to win the game using Cathar's Crusade. That's how you go wide and big, Red Deck wins, with Cathar's Crusade. We are playing Cathar's Crusade tokens on MTG Arena Historic against Virus 19. We have tokens of Divine Visitation, so let's keep that. Open up with a Plains, setting ourselves up for the Sun Petal Grove or the Castle Arvindale. Let's go with the Llanowar Elves. Opponent's playing mono blue tempo by the looks of it. We have a fairly good hand against tempo. I'll just pass the turn. Brazen Borrower. Alright. That's fine. But I will take the opportunity to play my Raise the Alarm. And pass the turn back. Opponent will bounce one of our tokens using Baron, the Tolarian Archmage. Impressionist of the Fairy. In which case we will go for Llanowar Elves, followed by the History of Benalia. How many tokens can you stop? History of Benalia is one of those cards our opponent doesn't really want to see. Moves back to our turn. We have a Cathar's Crusade. Let's start by going to combat and attacking with one of our knights. Problem is I don't want to run the Cathar's Crusade into a counter spell. Baron will trade. I'm fine with that. Let's run out the Divine Visitation into the counter spell. Opponent lets it resolve. Brazen Borrower? Shark Typhoon. That's another way to go about it. One casts a Heraldic Banner. Getting access to more blue mana. We will cast a Cathar's Crusade. And then we get to create the strongest human that Lovestruck Beast has ever created. A 5/5 Flying Angel that boosts our team. So not only do we have Cathar's Crusade, we also have the Divine Visitation, which makes this especially threatening. Unless our opponent has a board wipe. And in which case we'll get the March of Multitude for ridiculous value. I like ridiculous value. Opponent bounces the Angel and trades with our little warrior token. What token was it? Soldier token. Opponent is now on 6. 7 with the Heraldic Banner. Should we be scared is the question. Opponent casts a big Gadwick to draw cards. Alright. Well, now we gotta have some fun. We get a March of the Multitude for X equals 4 if we want to. Let's do that. Because March of the Multitude for X equals 4 means we get to summon 4 angels. 4 angels enter the battlefield, triggering Cathar's Crusade, which means that we end up with this ridiculous board with 4 8/8 flyers. As well as our 7/7 Vigilance and our 6/6 Llanowar Elf. And our opponent blows everything away. The deception. No, really, the deception. Alright, well, let's play Lovestruck Beast. And pass the turn. Now I'm sad. We had the combo. We had the angels, and our opponent just had to summon this Spirit Dragon Planeswalker to wipe them all out, and the enchantments. And we'll take 3 to the face.
Consider this a warning.
Chromatic Lantern. Oh, so it's 5 color mono blue. Probably with Chromatic Orrery. And Fae of Wishes. Ugh. Alright. I think that that's enough. You win, opponent. Hugin's too strong. We are playing Cathar's Crusade token on MTG Arena Historic against Flame Seeker in the Jumpstart Hera. That looks pretty good. We get to turn 1 Llanowar Elves. Turn 2, play some tokens. Ooh, Divine Visitation. I like the sound of that. cards become a lot more threatening when we're summoning 4/4 angels. That's not nice. Fine, I'll give you the Saproling migration. I'll play the Temple of Plenty. Scarlands are a little too slow here. And I'll pass the turn, because Llanowar Elves is too valuable to trade with a Fenlurker. Opponent plays a card that's not made for this matchup. We'll cast History of Benalia. Then pass the turn. If we draw land, then we'll get the Divine Visitation. If we don't, then we'll cast the Song of Freyalise, which will enable us to cast a second History of Benalia and have access to enough mana to cast the Visitation next turn. Phyrexian Obliterator means that we cannot block it. Conveniently, we are going to start playing some flyers soon. The Divine Visitation. So all our tokens are now 4/4 Flying Angels. Our opponent is playing mono black, so I don't think they have any way to fight with Fenlurker. I'll have to discard a Song of Freyalise. It's a bit of a shame because we would. Oh, okay. Well, drawing the Castle Arvindale helps, although we don't actually have a Plains. Which means we need to decide between History of Benalia and Raise the Alarm. I think Raise the Alarm is, well, it's a more powerful option. So let's just pass the turn back. Keeping the 2 mana summon a pair of 4/4 flyers and safely tucked into our hand. Opponent will attack with the Obliterator. We will not block. Definitely not. We will summon a pair of 4/4 flyers. With Vigilance, of course. Tasty. Also, you have Castle Arvindale, which allows us to summon a 4/4 flyer every turn, which is pretty snazzy. Can you do anything against a whole bunch of flyers? Way to back up, Raise the Alarm. It's actually quite disgusting what we're doing. Well, that's what happens when you play against Divine Crusade tokens. Gotta love all the cool stuff you can do on MTG Arena. That's not nice. Tap for green for no apparent reason. Everything gets blown away. Opponent will attack, we will not block. But we will Raise the Alarm. Swing for 8. Play our land and pass the turn. Even if our opponent has a board wipe, we still have Castle Arvindale. And our opponent sees it, and that is a victory for Cathar's Crusade, using the Divine Visitation part of the deck. We are playing Cathar's Crusade tokens on MTG Arena Historic. Against T-Swizzle. Alright, we have a Plains and a Phyrexian Tower, which allows us to cast half of the cards in our hand. So let's assume that that's good enough. Also, Phyrexian Tower is pretty good at ramping up. If we can call that ramping. Considering our hand of Legion's Landing, I guess it's more vamping up. Vampires. Let's start by attacking with our 1/1 lifelinker. They are Phyrexian Tower and hope to only draw lands for a little while. Opponent displaying mono red by the looks of it. Let's run into a Chain Whirler. Well, at the very least, if our opponent has no answers, we will get to flip Legion's Landing. Which will give us access to 5 mana if we so wished. Would make a Cathar's Crusade really good right now. But instead we will go with History of Benalia, mostly because we don't have the Cathar's Crusade. I'll summon a 2/2 Knight, putting the pressure on our opponent. And I'll keep the Lovestruck Beast token, just in case our opponent has a Chain Whirler next turn. It is a Goblin after all. Gem Pawn Incinerator will do nothing, because there are no Goblins on the battlefield. That's a very slow start for Goblins. Brace yourselves for the Goblin Chieftain. That's not so bad. We get a Temple Garden. Alright. Well, I think we want to attack with everything. So let's take the white mana from Adanto, cast another Legion's Landing, attack with the crew. Hit you for 4. Play a bell. And cast a Lovestruck Beast. And we'll pass the turn back. Opponent is now hard pressed to go off with combo shenanigans. Well, Krenko does decently. Opponent will get a summon a pair of 2/2s. Do we want to march? So we can march for x equals 3. Our opponent has 3 blockers, which means we could get in for 4 plus 3. We could get in for 7. I think we want to do that. It's just a lot of pressure. We want to make sure that Krenko doesn't go crazy. So we're going to swing with everything. And our opponent probably has to chump block, at least with 2 creatures. 4, 7, 11. Yeah, our opponent needs to chump block with at least 2 Goblins. Opponent will go down to 2. Keeping a Chieftain and a Krenko on the battlefield is quite scary. Let's keep that Plains as a bluff. One has 5 mountains, 4 cards and a Krenko. Opponent needs 7 creatures on the battlefield to not die. Opponent hits a Prospector. Actually, you have 9 creatures. We only need 2 to get through. If we'll get the 10th one with the Adanto first fort, I believe we have game here. Although our opponent still has the prospector to do some stuff. So our opponent may be tapped out in terms of lands, but our opponent still has some options. We have none, though. We must attack with everything and hope our opponent simply does not have enough blockers or ways to gain life. Which I think is fair. There's not that much that Goblins can do at instant speed. One Gem Palm, Incinerator, maybe two. Right now we're one over lethal, so we're hitting for 3. And it's just good enough. Beating the Sea of Goblin with an even bigger swarm of tokens. And that's how you win with Cathar's Crusade tokens without Cathar's Crusade. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe by clicking the Yoshi icon at the right of your screen. It doesn't cost you any mana, and it greatly helps to support this channel and keep the awesome videos coming.